come once again to discuss things.
Time is money and money's time. We wasted every second dime on diets, lawyers, shrinks, and absent flags in plastic surgery. Now Willy Wonka, Major Tom, Ollie and Leia have moved on. Signal the final curtain call.
Welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I'm Sid Partu. Joining me today is Deadpoolzilla and Ruben DeBoard, the most delicious Geeky Gentleman. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Good evening.
Yeah. Good awkward pause evening.
Fuck you. The mic cut out. Fuck you.
So Deadpoolzilla has picked our review topic tonight. Deadpoolzilla, what are we talking about?
Well, we are talking about an album. We don't do enough of those. I think probably because a lot of us aren't underqualified to actually be fucking album reviewers. So today we're going to be reviewing A Perfect Circle, Eat the Elephant, which is the latest album to come out about 2 months ago from the band that and keep in mind, this has been over a decade since this band has done an album. Now, this is kind of a way of saying I'm sorry, because I'm going to tell this story, Ian, because it was my fault. We had actually done another review on a Perfect Circle album called The 13th Step, but we decided to not post it because, yeah, Steve and I really got into our demons. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Steve, Ian, and I really faced our demons. Like, I kind of confessed that I thought about killing myself that day. So, yeah, it was a pretty intense review, and so we just didn't feel comfortable having it released, and so we ended up scrapping that one. But, you know, that's okay. Things happen. So here we are for A Perfect Circle yet again. I can't really remember too much about what I said about the band itself in the last review, which doesn't really matter because I shouldn't talk much more about a review that people can't go listen to. But I don't know what it is about this band. I just can't get into it, and really, it's got so much stuff that really should work for me. It's weird because I don't know what the divide here is for me. I clearly remember you giving it a 5 out of 5 the last album. Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing is when you're rating or reviewing something, there's the difference between how much you enjoy it and how good you think it is, you know? Like, I don't know, there's got to be an example. Like, Citizen Kane's kind of the go-to. Like, Citizen Kane is a great film, sure, yada yada, but I don't particularly enjoy watching Citizen Kane, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, with this band, like, it's got a lot of things going for it, especially for a modern band that should be up my alley. It's got deep lyricism. It's got a tone that you can actually listen to without getting a headache. It's crafting the music to fit the tone of the song. It's doing a lot that I like, and I'm just like, I don't know, maybe it's that I'm listening to them just for a review and I didn't, like, discover them on my own or something, but I'm just not really connecting with this band too much on a personal level, despite how good I think the albums are, which is weird. Ruben, this the first time you ever listened to anything by A Perfect Circle?
Yes. In fact, I was surprised to hear Deadpoolzilla say that they've been doing stuff, or that they had done stuff like a decade ago, because I've never heard of them before last week.
Yeah. They've been doing since the late 90s.
Yeah, I mean, that's surprising. And maybe I shouldn't say that surprises me, because there's quite a few bands from the 90s that I've only recently discovered that I find that I quite like. And it's just like they didn't play on the radio, so I didn't know they existed. And that's the case here. When I first looked them up, when you mentioned this was what we would be talking about, and I saw the guy, like, it's all on YouTube, and it's the same picture for most of the thumbnails for most of these songs, and I saw him and I thought, okay, this is going to be kind of like, and maybe I'm generalizing too much, but I thought, okay, this is going to be kind of like Marilyn Manson or Korn, something like that. I don't really know what to call that kind of music. Like, it's not really. And I mean, there's music people out there who are going to say, like...
You were thinking like something new metal, essentially.
Yeah, and listening to it, it's really not that. There's not any screaming here. I was expecting somebody who's going to be like screaming these lyrics, like he just got his voice back or something, like Rob Zombie. Like if you listen to Rob Zombie, and I like a few Rob Zombie songs, so I'm not digging on him, but he's like really screaming, and it's just it's a certain kind of music. That's not what's going on here. The gentleman here who's singing, he's really singing it. He's not scream. I don't know, and so it's not the kind of sound that I was expecting. And then once you get a few songs into the album, it is kind of like, at that point, I was like, okay, I know what I'm in for the rest of the album. It's pretty tonally consistent, I think. Sometimes you look at an album and you'll have some really weird ups and downs. Like this song is very different from the rest, and you don't feel like it belongs in the whole album. I feel like for the most part, this album is pretty consistent with like terms of content and also like musically.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it's got a narrative, which is another thing. I really like when albums do that, and it's just not a thing modern music does anymore. A lot of albums just are collections of singles almost. And this has a number of singles on it, but the album has a narrative. It has a purpose. It's not like a rock opera or anything, but it's got a consistent theme going through it, and all the songs are kind of connected and lead into each other. And I really like that. I do. I don't know. I feel such a weird disconnection to it. I really don't know how I'm going to describe that. So I'm going to put Deadpoolzilla in charge of this conversation. He's going to steer the ship, and hopefully he doesn't crash us all. So Deadpoolzilla, where do you want to go on this?
I guess, what Ruben said is that there's so much, it feels like an actual story being told, and there's a point to this album rather than we want to make money. No, there's fucking effort into this. It's kind of like waiting for Maynard's, the lead singer of this band's, Maynard's other band, Tool, and waiting for their album. It's kind of like you wait for an album, and then you finally get it, and then you're like, oh, that's why we waited. It's fucking brilliant. So that's kind of the mindset whenever Maynard James Keenan is in a band, is that you wait sometimes a long-ass fucking time for a new album, and you're like, where's the new album? Where's the new album? Oh, that's the album! Yeah, I can understand the wait. But I guess if you want to start somewhere, let's start with the first single that came out for the new band, which was called The Doomed.
Okay, that's the one where it's like the sermon.
Yeah.
On the mound. Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah. So The Doomed was the first single for this track, for this album, and it just sets the tone for what this album was going to be. It's melodic, it's dark, and it pretty much tells you outright, you're fucked.
Mm-hmm.
If I...
Yeah?
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, if I had to sum up a theme for this entire album, I would say all of the songs, well there's two instrumentals, right?
I think there's only one.
Okay. I was thinking there was two. I don't know why I was thinking that. So there's the one instrumental, and then there's one song that I don't really think fits into this theme, but then all the others more or less are talking about dealing with anxiety. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but like you hear a lot of people, like you see this all the time on social media, where people are talking about their anxieties and even their depression, but they're doing it kind of in a funny way, sort of. And like this really does, like, you look at the lyrics, especially for like the first couple of songs, and actually The Doomed, wasn't it, in the order that I listened to it, it was like the fourth or fifth song, I think, but like looking at the order that they're listed on the album, like it really feels like they're talking about like how much life kind of sucks, and like you're just like feeling like you're trapped in a small room or something. Like that's kind of how it feels like dealing with anxiety. And maybe I'm just reading too much into it. I'd have to like actually look at the lyrics again. But and also I say that as someone who I don't deal with that kind of stuff. But it really feels to me like this whole album, like you were saying that about The Doomed, how it's like I was reminded of Rorschach from The Watchmen.
The odd thing is that this is not about anxiety. This is a very politically charged album, the Doomed itself, a lot of the lyrics of like "Behold the New Christ" and all that is more or less that, hey, we put this asshole in charge, and we're letting all these people just take away from us, and we're the good guys are losing.
Yeah, blessed are the rich, may we labor, deliver them more. Blessed are the envious, bless the soulful, the wrathful, the vain. Blessed are the gluttonous, may they feast us to famine and war. Yeah, it's a very politically charged album. It's got a lot of takes on political apathy, but I do think Rubin's onto something about social anxiety and social media. What's the song?
Especially with Disillusioned.
Yeah, Disillusion talks about, what is it, they call it, the silicone distraction or something like that. They're definitely touching on a lot of different themes, but connecting them all really, silicone obsession. They're connecting a lot of things really, really well. So, like, to the anxiety point, people are feeling very anxious in this day and age. A lot of it due to political turmoil because of the new administration. I don't say new anymore. It's, a year and a half in. And they're connecting that in a lot of ways to a trend of apathy and of feeling powerless and unable to do anything, which I think kind of all comes to the head in the very last song, Get the Let Out, chit chat, ain't got time for that, we got places to be, we got mountains to climb, shape the rainbow with me, only so much time, get the let out, suck it up buttercup, get the let out, we got places to be. That's all repeated again, and I think it all wraps up, or I think that's all connected again, and that's what I like about this album. There's so many connections and bridges. It's all connected to the very beginning, and the title track, Eat the Elephant, which is to the phrase, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You just get in and you start dealing with it. So I think that it's all connected. I think there's definitely the political message, but I do think there's a message about dealing with anxiety, dealing with these monumental problems, and the solution that I like that they pose is rather eloquent of, yeah, no, there's no magic bullet, just fucking do it. Just get in there.
Just bite the bullet.
Figure it out. Yep.
That is a good point, Ruben, and you were onto something with the whole, it does feel like something out of Watchmen with the Doomed. It does feel like something you'd listen to, like a Watchmen trailer, which I would not be shocked if we got that for the HBO series coming. Yeah, that's a thing. But the thing is with this is that, with this track is that, again, it's probably the heaviest, I would say, of the album. And it just feels like as it's getting louder and louder, you feel that kind of like claustrophobia of, there's no escape. You've got, there's no escape from this.
Mm-hmm. The very first song in what I listened to was the one titled "Eat the Elephant," and the opening lyrics are looming, omnipresent. This task ahead, this task at hand, ominous and daunting, crippling undertaking. I'm frozen. So like that for me, I think just opens up the floodgates with, here's what we're dealing with in this album. It's going to be some heavy stuff. Hope you can deal with it. So I think that it really does pretty much throughout almost every song. It kind of deals with that. Even the instrumental one feels very emotional. It doesn't a lot when I was, the very first CD that I ever got was actually a Dave Matthews CD, and I remember just being there was one instrumental track in that, and I remember thinking why is this here? And now I look at this and I'm thinking even this instrumental track feels like it belongs in this album with the narrative going on through all these tracks with the lyrics to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Eat the Elephant is a very okay, this is the situation we are in now. You can't get out of it. You just have to, strap in and go with it. And that's not so much that's, the thing with the album, but it's just pretty much saying, welcome to life, welcome to life post 2016. You're fucked if you can't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
So long and thanks for all the fish. Can we talk about that song? Because that's my favorite track.
This is the most beautifully apocalyptic song ever.
I know. One, I just love anything that references Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, so that's really good. Mm-hmm. But two, the thing that really sticks out for me was the
the chorus, I guess you'd call it, or I don't know what you'd even call it, the lead into it to the chorus.
Yeah.
Now Willy Wonka, Major Tom, Ali, and Leia have moved on. Signal the final curtain call for all its atomic pageantry. God, I love that line so much because 2016 was a shit year where everybody awesome died, and that's like a really good way to frame that. Is like everyone awesome died right before some of the worst shit started.
Yeah, and this almost feels like a U2 song of how it's played. Really, like like you can almost hear Bono sing these lyrics, but no, it's cheerful, but at the same time you understand that, man, what a dumpster fire 2016 was.
2016, 2017, 2018 is not looking much better.
It's been
I made a prediction back in 2016. I said, you know what's the worst part about 2016? 2017 is going to be even worse. You know what's the worst part? Was going to be the worst part about 2017? 2018 is going to be even worse. And so far, I am Nostra fucking Damas, bitches.
Great job, Nostra dumbass.
I saw someone say that this is all just like this is actually just the 96th. What they say? It was like, or this is the 30th month of 2016 or something like that. Where, so the one song from this that I actually feel like I don't want to say it doesn't belong, but it seems the least like all the others is The Contrarian. I feel like Blue Oyster Cult is my favorite band, and this seems like something Blue Oyster Cult would have done. Like, it seems like it's a fantasy story. They're talking about a wizard who lies, and they're like, beware Belial's smile. All of that seemed like it was like a song about a fantasy story or something. And like,
it was about someone lying, but he's in the White House now.
Okay. See, I'm not smart enough to pick up on stuff like that. I just... Like, if they say it's a wizard named Belial, I'm usually just going to say, okay, it's a wizard named Belial. I don't pick up on
you don't get allegory?
Not in music. Like we said,
that's fair.
We're all underqualified to talk about music. If it was in a prose story, I'd be like, okay, I might pick up on it. But like with this, and granted, I only gave one listen through on the whole album. If I did multiple listen throughs, I might have picked up on it, but. Just the first one, I was thinking this really reminds me of Blue Oyster Cult, where like so many of their songs are about like, you know, they've got a song about Elric from the Michael Moorcock character, and like, you know, fantasy stories about like fallen kingdoms and stuff. And I kind of was getting that vibe from The Contrarian.
Well, I mean, I think that's there. They're definitely framing him in the light of like an evil wizard or something like Velvet, this magician's sleight of tongue and hand. Hello, he lied. Beware his Belial smile. As warm and calculated as heroin. Beware the contrarian. It's all about just like warning you, you know, that he's a snake, a salesman, swindler. And I mean, that's been something thrown at Trump since
day one,
the very beginning. Yeah, like. I mean, I remember Romney, before he decided to run for Senate, was criticizing Trump, and he's trying to steal the Republican Party nomination and leave us with nothing more valuable than a degree from Trump University. And so it's just it's very much in line with that, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something to consider.
So I guess the one album that's probably the heaviest in terms of what it's talking about is Talk Talk.
Yeah, you know, let me ask you this, Diplozoa, since you know these guys more than either of us, obviously. They Christian?
No, they're mostly atheists.
Okay. I was just, like, really surprised by the number of religious allegories, particularly to Jesus. I mean, The Doomed has a very, like, anti-Sermon on the Mount kind of thing.
Well, Maynard's whole thing is that he's kind of like the whole dogma of what politics is becoming.
Okay.
And in Talk Talk, man, this one just smacks you in the face of, like, hey, thoughts and prayers ain't gonna fucking fix this.
Yep. Try, talking like Jesus, try walking like Jesus. Yeah, I mean it's definitely there. It's really interesting. I don't know. That's a message I'm totally fine hearing from an atheist. I'm just a little surprised that they're using that connection.
Well, it's mostly
it works.
Yeah, because if for those who are unaware, Talk is about the massive shootings we've been having for the past 3 years now. Now.
18.
Yeah. And how we've all been kind of like, we're becoming apathetic to it. And it's all like, oh, we can just say thoughts and prayers and change our, our Facebook status to like have a flag of the country getting fucked or, the state or whatever. And we can just pretend it's fine. Like, we're absolved of it. It's like, no, you're not. You're doing jack, and you just want to have the same conversations over and over again. And it's like a accident counter. It's like days without accident. It goes right back to 0 when someone pulls that fucking trigger.
Don't be the problem, be the solution. Yeah, it's all there. It's definitely really interesting. Ruben, do you have a read on that song at all?
No. Like I said, I'm not usually. I took some notes on the album, really mostly on songs that stood out to me. I didn't have any notes on Talk. I remember there was some stuff on that. That was one that had stuff about, was it Talk Like Satan or Talk Like Jesus?
It's Talk Like Jesus.
Okay. I knew it was one of those. Sorry. I didn't really pick up on any of the shooting stuff though. So I either wasn't smart enough to pick up on it, or I was trying to gather my thoughts on it and just couldn't really think of anything on that one.
Well, I mean, that one, I like the thoughts and prayers thing is something that's an interesting discussion worth having, because invariably every single time one of these happens, the first thing a lot of legislatures, state, local, whatever, do is say our thoughts and our prayers are with them. And it's just gotten to be a cliche at this point. So I really like this line here: thoughts and prayers, adorable crisis. Like, God, that's really, really poignant to me. I really, really like that one. Like cake in a crisis, we're bleeding out. While you deliberate, bodies accumulate. Sit and talk like Jesus, try walking like Jesus. Talk, get the fuck out of my way. So I think that's really interesting. The just rage-filled, like, fucking get off your ass and do something. And again, it connects back to get the let out.
Yeah. It's very much like, and the weird thing is that this is not it's a very heavy subject, and this could easily be like a heavier song, but melodically it's slow, it's very symphonic, and it kind of illustrates the point of, yeah, this is not going away.
Yep.
Just curious, for either of you, when you listen to music, do you like, and I'm gonna assume, Deadpoolzilla, that you like this, where it's like really like getting you almost like a call to action. Like for me, with music, I mean, I guess I'm good either way, because a lot of times I'm not really picking up on it unless it's just really in your face. But like for me, like with movies and TV shows and entertainment like that, I'm usually trying to steer clear of stuff where it's going to be like really heavy and something that's going to really hit you emotionally. I try to stay away from all that stuff because I'm there to be entertained. Do you prefer stuff like this where there's more of a point to it, and it's like this is all talking about like the real world and how screwed we are and stuff like that? Where do you prefer something like this versus something where it's more like entertaining, for lack of a better word?
You see, the thing is that I love A Perfect Circle. I love all their albums. But the thing is, I need to take them in portions because it's an emotional journey for each one. And there are other bands who have this kind of same impact. I need to do it in portions, or I'm just going to be fucking depressed. It's like trying to read all of Garth Ennis's The Boys in one go. You're really going to fucking hate yourself by the end of it. But the thing is that I can enjoy these albums and I love them. But like I said, it's really difficult, at least for me. I know there's some even heavier APC fans out there that will listen to this and just be like, let's pop in the next album. Because there's, sometimes, the media of music has always been a great place to, point out problems. I mean, that's been the thing since day one with a lot of music. I mean, you remember how many songs about anti-Vietnam were?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is nothing new, Ruben.
It ain't me. It ain't me. I ain't no senator's son.
Yeah. I mean, go look at like fucking War Pigs from Black Sabbath, or, I could throw a rock and show you even like bands who are not like or musicians who are not politically charged have that one song to make you go, oh yeah, this is the world right now. We need to fucking do something. And yeah, sometimes that really, songs like that can really reach people. So, so this is no different.
To your larger question, Ruben, about media that's meant to make you think about it, meant to make you consider social problems and stuff. Yeah, I really like that stuff. Like I've talked up Bombshells, the comic, left and right for a couple years now. It's that kind of thing really does appeal to me. And like I get the stuff. Sometimes you just want something to not turn your brain off, but sometimes you just want something that's not about that kind of stuff. Sometimes you just want something that is for entertainment. And I don't think that you can't have both. I don't think that every piece of media has to be socially representative. And that is still a political choice, but I don't think that everything has to be expressly political. That being said, I don't like the opposite side of the spectrum, wherein people say, just keep the politics and the stuff out of art in any form.
Right.
You hear this all the time. Keep the politics out of comics, keep the politics out of movies, keep the politics out of music. And what that mentality is, whatever side of the spectrum you're on, what that mentality is I don't care what you think. I don't care what you find important. I don't want to hear about it. I just want you to be my dancing monkey.
Yeah, that's because it goes back to the whole ignorance is bliss, and it goes back to that. And media has art has always been that kind of form. Like you could even argue that art was the original protest.
Yes, absolutely, without doubt. Yeah, so like that's definitely present. That's definitely something there, and I can understand not wanting to get into that every single day. If you've had a rough day, coming home and listening to something that's going to be super politically charged and call out apathy probably isn't your go-to. That's understandable, but I don't think that means that there's not a place for it or that you should avoid it entirely in every conceivable circumstance.
I think for me,
no.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please.
I think like I said, like War Pigs. Deadpoolzilla mentioned War Pigs earlier, and that's one. And I'm also, this about me, and when the very first Geeky Gentleman I was on, we talked about an album, and like I mentioned that I usually don't listen to the lyrics unless like it's a song I've heard so many times that I will just like start to hear the lyrics and absorb it. It takes me a long time to absorb lyrics. And so like with this band, I actually had to go and look up the lyrics on several of them and kind of look it over as I was listening to the song to really like...
I did the same thing, because I have that same thing where it takes me a while to catch on to lyrics unless I'm like reading them.
Yeah, and I did that this time. And so several of these I kind of like was picking up on the message a little bit easier than I would have normally. But like, for example, War Pigs is one I've never done that for. I've heard it on the radio, and I'm like, yeah, this is classic Ozzy, and like it's got a beat that you can dance to, and I'm digging it. So like that's kind of where I am. Like I would never want them to take away the political message from that, but at the same time, the political, like I wasn't alive when Vietnam was happening, and so like that's something where I like the song and the political message. It's unfortunately still relevant in some cases. Like you could take a lot of what people were protesting about Vietnam and transfer it to later wars. But then like, there's other songs where there's times where I'm not interested in the political message, but then I don't ever want to see a day where the artist is forced to take the political message out. Even if it's a political message I'm not interested in, I don't want to see that be happening, if you know what I'm saying.
No,
yeah,
I
and
get you.
on that point though, like I've definitely felt the other side of it. Like usually, most of the time, it's left wing artist having to deal with conservative fans. I feel that most of the time when it's like keep your politics out of your work, that comes from a conservative criticizing a leftist artist. What music, comics, whatever. But I've definitely felt the other side of it. I've definitely felt like, oh god, I like this guy, but then I've started to realize, or I like this thing, then I started realizing politics. For comics, Ethan Van Sciver.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out he's a bad person.
Yep.
And that's unfortunate because I love Green Lantern with Jeff Johns' run, and I think Sciver did some amazing work on it. And then, like, to connect it back to music, I really liked Rush. I really liked the song Free Will. Until I really started paying attention to the lyrics beyond just the surface level and realized what they were saying, I was like, damn it, that sucks. But, like, my reaction to that is, and I know I'm not trying to accuse you of saying this or anything, Ruben, but my reaction to that is, like, yeah, I get it. Either move on, or if you want to keep listening to it, maybe rethink your own political position. If I wanted to keep buying Skyver's art, maybe I should rethink my own political position. Mm-hmm. I've thought about it plenty. I'm comfortable where I am, and Skyver can go make his fucking whatever Comicsgate books with, you know, huge tits and white heroes and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like I definitely get the other side of being on the liking an artist and then being disappointed by their politics. I was going somewhere with this. To connect it back to Perfect Circle, though, it's interesting to approach a band that I don't have any real personal connection to, but to agree with them so much. Like, and to feel like I'm really part of the critique here. You know, while they're definitely critiquing from a more leftist position, they're certainly not pro-Democrat or anything like that. A lot of their critiques apply to just the institution of United States government itself, and to apathy and doing nothing. And so a lot of the like songs like Get the Let Out, it's like, quit complaining and just go do something about it, or you're going to end up in a nuclear Armageddon. And I'm like, yeah, I definitely feel that. And I have, over the last couple of years, felt like I'm just not doing enough. Yeah. My problem is, I don't really know what I can do. And that's kind of one of the other things about this album, to transition us, that I find really interesting, is it talks about the powerlessness, and it connects it to the distraction of digital media.
Yeah. Hence, again, with Disillusioned.
Yeah. Like, it talks about the apathy, the powerlessness, and I mean, to be fair, people are outraged every fucking day by something going on in this government, and intellectuals, academics, and historians have said that should we survive, this will be the greatest revival in American democratic history since the Revolution, because people are now paying so much more attention to the political landscape, and they're getting so much more involved. Mm-hmm. That being said, the way the system was created intended for change to be slow and painful. It intended for things to be difficult to do. And so, yeah, you can be outraged at Trump every day. Guess what? You can't do shit about it until November. That's literally your first opportunity to do anything besides call your senator, which, if you're like me, you can deal with. I got two senators, obviously, Joe Donnelly and Todd Young. Joe Donnelly is a Democrat in Indiana, which makes him a rare breed to get to national office, and he only got there because the guy that won the Republican nomination back in 2012 said some shit like, was it? I can't remember the exact phrasing, but he was he jumped on the bandwagon of like women's bodies have ways to shut rape down and or cases of legitimate rape. Yeah, so that's why Joe Donnelly got into office, and so he's got to be a Democrat that plays really hard to the center and doesn't alienate himself too much. So I can't really pressure him to do too much of anything. Otherwise, I get another senator like my dear friend Todd Young, who blatantly ignores and refuses to take meetings with constituents or reply to letters and phone calls from constituents. So, like, during the healthcare debate, I was calling and emailing, and all I got back was, despite any problems you have with the proposed legislation, it's clear that Obamacare has failed the state, and so we must repeal it. Which is a good way of saying, fuck you.
Yep.
And so, like, there's a feeling of not necessarily apathy, but powerlessness. And so, I don't know, kind of have a little too much at stake in my life to go shoot up a rally or anything. I don't really know what other means I got left to me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you just said that, Ian. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like violent revolution isn't really an option for me. I'm just throwing that out there. The civil side of discourse has kind of borne no fruit for me. So, like, what do I do? And it's a shitty situation, and it and I think that's kind of the critique that they're making is you're in this situation where you feel absolutely powerless and completely ineffectual. Do something. I don't know what.
Yeah, and I think I think that may be a one reason why a lot of times I don't want to hear the political stuff, because I feel so powerless. And it's like, what do you like? Unless you feel like, you know, someone who's up in office, you know, one of those guys, Don Young, unless you feel like he's listening to this music and it's going to get his attention, like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, you know, it's one of those things where it's calling attention to how powerless we are, but at the same time, it's not offering a solution for what we can do other than, you know, just vote against that kind of people in the future.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, to be fair, my solution has been get really into the YouTube thing. Get really into social media. Yes, it can be a distraction, a euphoric distraction. You know, I get that people don't like to hear social justice warrior talk 24/7 all the time. And you know, we still do fun videos. But my solution is, if I can convince one person, or if I can just be a voice of dissent in one person's ear, it's something.
Mm-hmm.
It's not much, but it's something, and maybe it's selfish and it only makes me feel better. I don't know. It's all I got, is I can say, hey, look at this comic that gets really into this social issue and provides a great critique of it. More people should think about this. And yeah, that gets people that go, oh, fuck you SJW. Well, at least they heard me say it. I don't really know how else to react to it. So that's my method of just pouring myself into it, trying to make whatever change I can. And maybe for the people that I'm just a echo chamber for, I don't know, maybe it's making them feel not so alone, and by extension, maybe not so powerless. That's my hope, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like we've been excluding Dipplezilla from all this.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dipplezilla, you talk. Yeah. Say something.
Oh yeah, the guy
dance, Mucky, dance!
The big, you know, a lot of what you said, Ian, is agreeable with this album, but at the same time, like, again, with Disillusion and Talk, is that very much like, you know, it's not, this is what I like about the album, is that it's not playing favorites in some cases. It's not, you know, there's kind of like you said, there's, you know, it really calls out the apathy in the people, even in the people who want to do good, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's a nice little wake-up call, but it's not, and it's a little in your face about it. But it's not like, oh, you know, it's not, you know, dumbing you down or beating you down with it. It's more like, yeah, go out there, go out and fight the good fight.
I mean, like, to bring it back to real world stuff, I've had a Google alert for Fort Wayne protest set up for, I don't know, since November of 2016. Gotten to go to one protest, and there were like 12 people there, and that was disappointing. Indiana, not exactly the most activist state, unfortunately.
Oh, what? Mike Pence's state is not liberal? Fucking shocker.
I know, right?
I remember when he was announced as the VP, Ian, you were like, before it even happened, you were like, "Oh no, don't let it be him." I think you were like, you already had a good feeling it was going to be him, and then you were just like, "No, not him, not the guy from my state." Like you said something like, "That's another thing that people are going to pin on Indiana."
Mm-hmm. I mean, I had to apologize. I feel like I have to apologize for my state sometimes for a lot of Mike Pence's legislation, like, I don't know,
electroshock therapy.
Yeah, electroshock therapy for gay kids. What was the other one? Oh yeah, all fetal remains must be given proper funerals. So everyone sends your tampons to Mike Pence. You know what charity I want to fund, or I want to found is a charity that just sends ridiculous things to people to make symbolic points. Like, I imagine we'd send just a lot of manure, but also like really specific things, like certain books to people who say certainly stupid things. You know, I feel like there's a good cause there somewhere. Just like, and not just like a book, like crates full of them. You know. Just these are just thoughts I have. So yeah, there's definitely you're definitely right. That's there, and I definitely felt it. I still feel apathetic. I still feel like I'm not doing enough, which I don't know is probably the best thing I could feel. Like that I'm just not getting enough done. It's something. It's at least I'm aware of the problem. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you guys get a different feeling? Because we're talking about how a lot of this is very politically charged, and I was saying that the contrarian, I thought it had kind of a fantastical element, but another song I thought was a little weird, and now I'm wondering if I misread it, was "By and Down the River." I kind of felt like this one was more of a like a dejected after you, like a bad breakup song. And I'm sure I misread it, but it reminds me of 80% of Taylor Swift's songs where it's like she's just had a bad breakup and now she's going to make a song about it. It's not the same genre of music, but it kind of reminded me of that kind of thing. And I'm wondering.
Wow, you are way off the mark.
No, I agree with you, Deadpoolzilla, but I do see how you could get that just on one or two listens through. Just looking at the lyrics now, moving in and out of the shadow, it's no easy mission, holding on to how I picture you. I mean, that's kind of, I can see that interpretation.
So what is it about?
This song is, again, going back to the, at least how I feel is it's very going back to the apathy and, championing someone you thought was going to be that kind of savior for you. And then you realize, oh, he's a piece of shit like everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which I think I've heard a lot of people to connect with the political allegory. I've heard enough people say that about Trump, that they're very disappointed in him because he didn't do what they were hoping, which I don't even know how to engage with that. I'm like, you mean he lied?
Well, my thing is that my parents both voted for him, but we had a conversation about a month or so back, and both my parents said, "Oh yeah, we totally backed the wrong horse." Because my mom and both my parents are like, "Yeah, we made a mistake, because I don't want to. We're tired of waking up every goddamn day afraid of the nuclear apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Watchmen felt a little dated because there hadn't been enough fear of the nuclear apocalypse in the modern zeitgeist. And really, you gotta thank Trump for something.
You making Watchmen feel relevant again?
Yes, exactly. It's no easy task.
Yeah, everyone was really cashing in on that 80s nostalgia, and now we've got it all back.
Yep. No, so I think that's there. But to the idea of being, like, mesmerized by someone and then finding out they're a piece of shit too. Yeah, that's a pretty common political message. They promised so much and then they let it all down.
Yeah. It's kind of like in my younger, stupider years when I was backing Mitt Romney for president.
Oh God, I love Mitt Romney so much. I love that man. That is a beautiful, beautiful idiot.
I was kind of backing the wrong horse in my younger years.
Yeah.
I don't feel,
to be fair,
I don't.
To be fair, no love here for the Democratic Party. Like obviously, it's easy to say, fucking Hillary Clinton, but like to be fair, Bernie Sanders isn't the Jesus allegory you think he is. Lefties, he's definitely better than Trump or Hillary, but he's not the Jesus you think he is.
It's the poison you can swallow.
Yeah, I think that's definitely there. Same for a lot of them, like Elizabeth Warren, too. I'm like, I definitely like a lot more about her, and she definitely has her moments. But I promise you, there's some shit there that you just haven't figured out yet. You've yet to smell the shit.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's fair. I think that's for everyone. I don't think there's any world leader who I truly admire.
Yeah. I mean,
there are guys in history that I like in some ways, but I'm certain they all have their flaws. I'm certain of it.
I mean, that's kind of the thing is that, what the fuck was I going to say? Even not so much even political, like you could easily form this into like an idol you had in your life, and then you realize, oh, he or she was an asshole or worse, because this goes back to your Ethan Van Sciver thing.
Moving in and out of the shadow, it's no easy mission holding on to how I picture you. Yep. What's the line Manos told me from Bob's Burgers? Next time you want a hero, pick an old guy, because by the time you grow up, they're dead.
That's exactly what it is. Like, how many times, how many people worship like Bill Cosby and whatnot? How many people like that? And then that stuff came out. You could easily transition this song to every person who was like a comedian or a politician or followed or a musician, and you realize, oh, they're all, pieces of shit in one form or another.
Yeah, pretty much. And like, I'm not trying to sound negative. I'm not trying to say that there aren't good people in the world. I think people have their flaws. And someone can be good in spite of those, but yeah, it's definitely hard to acknowledge that in people. I think it's definitely hard to see someone that you looked up to or idolized and have that version of them broken for you. Yeah.
It's kind of like what we were saying about Bernie Sanders, where, I really backed him in the campaign. I really, liked a lot of his stuff. But at the same time, I was like, I did some, I looked into his back history, and I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that or that, but, I'm still going to back him,
Yep.
Again, like, same thing with President Obama. He did some stuff in his 8-year term that I didn't agree with.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah.
But I still like the guy. On a whole, I think he did good for what he had.
I mean, like when his predecessor and his what's the word I want? Predecessor and and the guy who took up after him are the two worst presidents in American history. Like, you're gonna kind of look good just by comparison, you know? And no, I definitely have tons of problems with Obama. And I don't know, it's definitely really interesting to think about the own internal biases you have and expectations you have of others. And this album does a pretty good job of shattering that illusion a little bit, which is nice.
But it doesn't do what I like is that even though it shatters the illusion, at the same time it's like, yeah, we fell for it's almost like you're not an idiot for doing so. We all been there. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not like it's not like this album doesn't condemn you for your certain views or whatnot. It's more like here's where we're going. Here's how you can fix yourself.
Yeah. I also think that it's important to take away a message of that of it's not wrong to look up to someone. It's not wrong to be inspired by someone.
But understand they're human.
Understand they're human and try to ground more of what you're finding inspiring about them in yourself than in them. Is, I think, a really good lesson to learn. Particularly because I know a lot of people that listen to this show are a bit younger, high school age and such, or high school, early college and such. So that's a good life lesson, kiddos. From Ian, your internet dad.
Yeah, and even he has some flaws.
Oh, believe me. So many.
Yeah.
I don't.
So many.
I'm just kidding.
No, you don't. You're perfect. Yeah, Ruben is perfect.
Yeah, he's full of shit.
Except that I'm white bread and I don't like to stay up late.
Oh, really? The guy whose white bread has the name Ruben? Aren't you a fucking walking pun?
Yep.
Well, no, he's not, because a Reuben is made on rye.
Oh.
And, okay, completely not related to the video at all, but I want to talk about this on the show, so I'm hijacking the show for a couple minutes here, alright? Alright. So recently, a couple months back, Subway was doing a special Reuben. You know how they'll, like, have a sandwich for only a couple weeks? Mm-hmm. They were doing a special Reuben. And so I went to Subway, and everyone's gone to Subway, I assume, and they know how it works. You go, you tell them what kind of bread you want, you tell them what kind of sandwich you want, and what to put on it, yada, yada, yada. But a Reuben only works because it's a very specific thing. It's a very specific set of ingredients and the way it's made. So I go to Subway, I'm like, hey, yeah, let me get a foot-long Reuben. And they go, what kind of bread? I'm like, it's a Reuben, so you put it on rye. And they go, you want turkey or corned beef? It's a Reuben, you use corned beef. All right, do you want it toasted? It's a Reuben, just make it like a Reuben. Like, there's a specific... If you do anything differently, it's no longer a Reuben. Stop fucking with it.
This is going to be the bit. This is going to be like the little bit for the...
I mean, it probably should be, but I think there's better stuff. I'm doing a new thing with clips now, and so I'm trying to just... I realized that I really like the points I make because I'm a very narcissistic person like that. One of my many flaws. So I'm really making more of an effort to use points that my co-hosts make in clips. So I'm going to put the onus on y'all. Come up with more poignant and clippable shit.
Next week, I'm just going to go through, I'm going to say, so I was at Subway, and then I'm just going to go through no, I'm just kidding. I'll just steal your points. No.
I'll just go into some tangent of how I whip my dick out all by myself.
Nice. All right, anyway, back to the album. Sorry, I knew that was distracting as fuck, but I do not know any other context under which I'll be able to tell that story on the show. So I'm telling that story on the show, and you all had to deal with it.
Some fucked up people. I make this realization every day. I'm like, what? Why did I do that? That's the whole point of this show, is to make this realization of why did we do that?
Anyway, so back to the album. Deadpoolzilla, you take us somewhere.
All right, so first off, I want to clarify. Yeah, there was no dick whipping out At any point in my life, I at no point did that. That was just me trying to one-up Ruben because I feel like I have to.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so getting back to the album is, man, what haven't we covered? Because I feel like we've pretty much hit a lot of notes on this album. I feel like we've hit all the major points of just. Actually, you know what we should talk about is much like and Ruben, you weren't present for that. That was Steve with Ian, but Ian, you can agree that the tone musically is much different than than 13th Step, because the 13th Step, excuse me, was a lot heavier in terms of the.
Oh yeah, that's a lot more like what you'd think of for modern rock / new metal, that kind of genre. This is.
It's a lot more
very
orchestral and synthetic.
Yes. It's got like a groove and like a backing to it as opposed to something on its own. Like I feel like you could take the lyrics out of this and just use the instrumentals, and it'd be like kind of placeholder music that you put in movies and stuff, or you could just see it as some of the background music in like kind of a darker toned film or something like that.
Yeah. The heavy,
and that's not like that's. I'm sorry. Let me just say this. That's not like a dig against the music. I think that's tied into the tone and the themes of the album, is wanting to feel just kind of like the background noise a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The closest we get to a heaviness to any and all of this album is The Doomed, and maybe a little bit of The Contrarian, but still, on a whole, this album feels more symphonic, and I feel like that plays in this album's wheelhouse, because the thing about A Perfect Circle is that the band really evolves consistently. I mean, Mirdanams and was also. It almost felt like this. It almost felt like this album in that. But however, it still had the heaviness of 13th Step. But Mirdanams had that kind of transitioning point between this, between that and what would become this several years later.
Okay.
Because again, Perfect Circle is one of those bands that is always trying to evolve, and the reason why they take so fucking long with albums is, yeah, they want to get this right. It's not like with most, because I see this so many times that bands, whenever they say, oh, we want to be experimental and try something new, we want to evolve for the fans, they do it, and it doesn't really hit the mark. So, yeah, practice makes perfect. So I can, and a lot of the band members were really like, if we were going to, if we're going to do this and do this, this type of album, we had to get it right and really had to make sure the lyrics and the music could be in perfect sync with one another. And I feel like they really, hit home with that, because honestly, had this been a little heavier, if it had been just the heaviness and just almost metal form to it, I feel like I'd be a little turned off by it.
Yeah, the fact that it's got such a like grooving almost kind of background to it really makes it feel like it's just supposed to blend in and not really stand out, and then that makes the lyrics even more profound than they already are, because they feel so counter to the kind of music playing behind it, and I think that is there intentionally. I feel like when I say stuff like that, it's gonna sound like a dig at the musicians on this, and it's really not meant to. I think that's a very tonally and smart choice that fits the album. One thing I do want to talk about, since we're talking about the music itself, I'm not a fan of the way this is sung, which is like a really weird point, but like there's such an emphasis on the lyrics here, and I feel like there's so much on a lot of the songs, there's just a lot of time, a lot of beats between lines, and it makes it like, I feel like if I weren't reading the lyrics while I was listening to this, I would have almost forgotten what the literally the word beforehand was. There's a lot of really slow delivery in the singing of the lyrics.
Yeah.
And I don't like that.
I can understand that, but on the other hand, I feel like that was the point of this album, is that the slowness to it, and almost because it's supposed to feel like that kind of apathy is being thrown back at you through the lyrics, and how how Maynard conveys those lyrics. It's supposed to point out the just kind of like it's like a, you know, it's that feeling of apathy and powerlessness thrown back at you musically.
Yeah, I think so. So that's fair. And this is an interesting thing to talk about. How do you feel about when something is done intentionally to be nonconformist or to not truly fit in a way that we're standardized and used to? How do you feel when that happens and it's done intentionally, but you still don't like it? Is that a fair complaint still, or are you just missing the point, do you think?
I think it's a bit of column A, column B. It depends on who you ask. That's one of the, at least for me, that's how I felt with not just songs, but also like movies a few times, where it's like it's done intentionally to be like that, and I'm like, yeah, but I still don't like it. But on the other hand, you know, what I don't like is different from what people like. I mean, obviously what you said about how the lyrics are conveyed is different than how, you know, me explaining, like, that's how it's supposed to be. Yeah, that's, you know, it's kind of every, you know, to each his own. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too fair about it.
No, that's fine. What do you think, Ruben?
I kind of agree. Like, I can especially think of examples in movies and TV where, like, they say, like, where it's like, yeah, we're deliberately trying to be like this particular
Twin Peaks.
Yeah,
Twin
yeah,
Peaks.
yeah. I don't like Twin Peaks. I mean, I liked a good 70% of the original show. Connor, if you're listening, you know, I didn't like the return of Twin Peaks, and so like that was David Lynch being weird deliberately, and like narrative choices were either just it was a very slow burn, and it was all deliberate, and I still didn't like it. But then also I can think of times where like people will, most of the time fans will say like they don't like something mostly because it's popular, and I'm thinking, okay, now you're being boring. Like, you know, actually find a reason to not like it. And sometimes I feel like when creators go in a different direction, they're being nonconformist to stand out. I feel like that's kind of to appease that fan demographic that's like, oh, I don't like this thing because it's popular. And maybe I'm just not being fair, and maybe they do have legitimate reasons for going in the direction they go.
Fair. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's just random thought that'd been in my head lately, and isn't really its own topic discussion enough, but it's something interesting to think about.
Let me ask a question, Deadpoolzilla. Is this, like, thematically, is this album pretty, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how does this rank compared to some of the other albums by this band? I know this is quite a bit more recent than some of their other work.
For me, on a personal level, my personal favorite is the 13th Step, of not just because of how it's musically set up, but also like on a personal level of how much I love that, so I'm a little personally biased. But having said that, this might be my second favorite. This is a close second for me. And not to discredit the other albums, because goddamn can those people make... Stone and Echo is a freaking awesome live album. Give that a listen if you want, people out there. I know live albums are really hit and miss, mostly on the miss, but you will not be disappointed with Stone and Echo from this band. Especially their cover of Imagine by John Lennon.
That's interesting.
And so what is... oh, go ahead.
No. What was your question?
So you said that the lead singer is also in Tool, and then I was reading a comment on Eat the Elephant, the song, and apparently that song was originally written to be on Linkin Park's last album, and then they decided it didn't fit tonally, and so they changed it up a little bit and had it be in this album. So, what's the difference between this band versus Tool? Like, does he have two different styles, and he's just like going for? Because I didn't know that. I've heard of Tool before. I had never heard of this band though.
Tool is a little more on the heavy metal side, but it still has that kind of melodic feel to it, despite the just grunginess of the music. I really profess to be a recent Tool fan, but I've really gotten into them heavily, and I've heard of them before, but it hasn't been until like, I don't know, I would say about almost 2 years ago that I really got into them, and I'm really glad that I finally got around to it. And I had the most dumbass reason of why I didn't want to listen to Tool. The songs are really long. I mean, their longest song, Rosetta Stoned, is almost 15 minutes long.
Wow.
I mean, dude, I'm a Pink Floyd fan. That's like a light, breezy afternoon.
Oh no, I'm fully aware. It's just that I just can't sit still long enough to really listen to the music. But when I like zone out and just sit back and listen to the music, it's like, oh, this is magic in my ears. And the same thing can be said for A Perfect Circle, where it's just when you really get lost in it, at least for me, when I really get lost in the lyrics and just the how it's all set up musically, is that I can listen to that, zone out, and really just dive into the lyrics. Like, it's that I'm not this makes sense, right?
No, it does. It does. Okay, do we have anything else we want to talk about with this, or do we want to go ahead and wrap up?
I'd say I think I've hit everything.
Yeah, the only thing is that, god damn, I really want to listen to So Long and Thanks for All the Fish again, because it's such a beautifully apocalyptic album.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really good. I was really personally hoping for a like sample or something from the So Long, and Thanks for All the Fish song from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie. That's the only thing that could have made that song better. But yeah, I really like that one.
I was actually, when I saw that was the title of it, and before I heard even like one bar, I thought it was going to be just a straight up cover of that, and I thought, oh, that would be very interesting. And I still like the song.
When I saw the title track, that was my thought too, because again, they've done some really excellent covers. Like, I think one of their best is Imagine, as well as When the Levee Broke. That's another great cover by them. And What's Going On, that's another one. But that's what I thought and again, I feel like at the same time, So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, if they had done it just a straight up cover of that, they would have killed it, and it would have made sense for this album.
I mean, you could have done both, in my opinion, but whatever.
Actually, let me ask you this: do you guys have a favorite track from the album before we get into ratings?
Mine is So Long and Thanks for All the Fish.
The Contrarian.
Mine would be By and Down the River.
Okay. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and go on to ratings. Ruben, why don't you go first? I'm curious where you're going to land.
Okay. I think we're taking it back to the very beginning where you were talking about how something can be good, but you might not necessarily enjoy it a whole lot. I think on the whole, I think this is a very good album, very tonally consistent, and the music is consistent. Like, some albums I'll listen to, and it's like there's a few songs I really like and everything else I don't like. I think all of this is pretty much on par with each other. So I'm going to give it, I just blanked. We do a 5
scale.
5 scale, okay. I'm going to say 5 Lying Wizards out of 5, although I don't know how often I'll go back to this album to give it another listen through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same camp as you. Again, I'm like, I like it. It's good. There's just this barrier that I'm having where I just don't think it's for me. So I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5 octopus hearts.
Okay.
Because that's a really weird album cover, and I like it. Ruben, you watched this on YouTube too, right?
Yeah.
Did you see the video where they like animated the octopus heart?
I did.
The arms on. Yeah, that was fucking weird.
What threw me off was like up until that point, all of the other songs was just a still image thumbnail, and then suddenly we got an animated one. And I just, for several seconds, I'm just staring at it like, okay, is something else gonna happen? And then I was like, okay, no. Like I would have probably just sat there the whole time, but I kind of like moused over to see if anything else was gonna like jump out at you or something, or if it would. But that was really weird. Because this was actually what I imagine you and I both listened to. It's from the actual band's YouTube page.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. How about you, Deadpoolzilla?
Well, this album was definitely worth the wait as an APC fan. I feel like it hit all the right marks. It definitely gets the message home and what it wanted to convey perfectly. Although that can't be said for Ruben's case, but I can see where he's coming from. This is I wouldn't recommend. This is not like, again, like an album I would pop in like every day. It's not a album that I would recommend. It's not something I would like recommend. Like I would play on a weekly basis. It would be something like if I need that feel and that kind of agreement to what I'm feeling and what I'm kind of thinking on a political and also like on a personal level, I'll give it a listen. And again, it really comes in alignment so many times, just thematically, musically, lyrically, everything. It just hits all points. So for me, I'm going to give this a 5 attempts to walk like Jesus out of 5.
Nice. Okay. Next week, it's my turn for a topic discussion, and I've got a topic in mind. I'm just not quite sure how to express it in my Geeky Gentleman 4 to 5 word titles. So I'm gonna kind of like vaguely say it as aging in comics, but more specifically about the idea of how characters staying young affects comics. And how every so often, every couple of like 10 to 15 years, we get like new, younger characters in comics. So that'll like kind of the example I'm going to would be Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, Damian Wayne. Like they're all young at one point in comics, and so I want to kind of talk about just the way that aging in comics works and talk about that. So that should be fun. Yeah. Everyone, thanks very much for watching. Please join us next week. Please check out other episodes of Geeky Gentleman this week, including character discussion, fan film reviews, all that jazz. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
I'm the Comics Kid 299.
And I am the Don Juan of Comic-Con.
And we are your Geeky Gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.